Hello, everyone. We'll get started. It's really lovely to see you on this Wednesday, 5 o'clock virtual tea. Welcome to Design the Life You Love, the new normal edition. And our new normal has become really normal. And we were joking about how we don't know which day is which anymore, but hey, the days that we have tea together is a Wednesday. So that that's the center of our universe, and our hearts are beating with excitement at seeing you, our fans, our repeat customers, and new people. So thank you for joining us. We'll start our tea time with a creative warm-up. Then we have a special exercise for expressing our life. And then we have one of my dear friends and super friends, as I should call her, Jenny Blake, the pivot lady, joining us today. And then we'll talk about next time. And you know the ground rules, but I'll do a real quick, no right or wrong. Everything we say here is safe and welcome. We're going to build on each other's ideas with yes and. Mute your mics, otherwise I'll come and mute it, and then you'll see we'll go in and out of muting and unmuting, and we'll use the chat box to comment and add our thoughts, which we're finding incredibly generative in terms of hearing from each other. And we'll think like designers, and most of you know this, but in a nutshell, thinking like a designer is thinking optimistically. No matter how hard the problem, we're determined to solve it. We're empathic. We have empathy for ourselves and for each other. We're thinking holistically, seeing the big picture. We're asking what if questions to have an open mind, and we're doing this collaboratively. We're going to build on each other's ideas. And with that, oh, and we're being playful, because when we're playing, we're in touch with our inner child, and we're not afraid of making mistakes. We're just trying things out, and we're doing that together. So let's be playful today. And here's how we're going to be playful now. Our warm-up today is joining two objects together. So if you were here last week, we joined two people together into one portrait. This time we thought, why don't we do that with objects? And actually, I have my objects. I'll just show them to you. Well, first, let's watch the film and I'll show them to you. So, and Meltem is co-hosting and driving the slideshow. You might go, oh, what are those two objects? One is a candy dish and one is a teapot. So the candy dish, here we go. Can you see that? I can't see myself, so hold on one second. Let me do my speaker view. I don't see myself. Now I see myself. Okay, that's the candy dish. It's a heavy candy dish that I designed. And then here's the Bodum teapot. That's my daily companion. Hence the tea time. Okay, so it's your turn. Pick two things in your vicinity and join them however you want. If you want, you could break them in half and join them like this. You could do it horizontally and top and bottom. Whatever you do, no rights or wrongs. Have fun. This should take you 2 minutes, and I'm going to mute everyone for a second. I muted, so I'll unmute Meltem. Maybe. Oops. All right. There we are. It's the Frankenstein of warm-up exercises. No masterpieces, please. We're just warming up our right brains and entering into the creative space. So this is not a drawing competition at all. Right, so you have another minute or so. Meltem, you want to prepare and get out of the presentation mode so we can start seeing everyone?
Yep.
And then while you do that, I think I just saw Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you. Gabriella, very cool. And great, I love the lovely messages in the chat box. Okay, so everyone, we're ready to show each other our drawings. If you'd like, put it into the gallery view and then hold up your drawings so we can admire each other's drawings. Very, very cool. Annette, I'm trying to unmute you to see what you drew. What did you draw?
I drew half a globe and a kaleidoscope.
Wow, that's beautiful, very abstract. And then I want to unmute Alex and see, what did you draw? Meltem, go back to the gallery view for a second so I can see Alex again and unmute him. Ah, come on, unmute. Okay, I
helped you.
Thank you, Alex. What did you draw?
I drew my glasses overlaid by my calendar because these days I lose track of what day it is. So I have them always on my glasses.
Very cool. I love the
merger.
Glasses. Calendar glasses. Excellent. So if you have new words for your objects, put it into the chat box, please. And we'll, Madam, did you take a picture? Could we move on then? All right. Yep. So you know that we love receiving your examples. Please feel free to send them, to email them to me or to Meltem. And with that, we'll, now that we're warmed up, everybody feeling warmed up mentally, creative brains? All right. I found this Buckminster Fuller because the other day, one of my friends was quoting Buckminster Fuller, and I thought, oh, let me see what other things he said. And I found this that I thought is really befitting for us. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. Is that like what we're doing? That's exactly what we're doing. Okay, so here comes the exercise for today. So we picked this one from our toolbox of Design the Life and Work You Love. And it's an expression tool. So we're giving form to our ideas. And we now live in a different world. And I think we can all agree that when we come out of our sheltering in space or cocoons, life is going to be different. And with that, it's time that we create a vision of the future. And this time we're going to do that using a letter. And this is a backcasting exercise. So we're projecting ourselves into the future, and from that future, we're looking back to our current selves. So it's called Future Me, and we're going to imagine that the year is 2030, and you're looking back to 2020. Write a letter to yourself describing the life you love and the insights that you've discovered between now and then, and the actions you will take to get to your vision in 2030. You can send this letter to futureme.org and set a date for them to send it back to you. They can send it back to you in 6 months, a year, or in 10 years. when we were trying this with one of our teams, somebody said you can literally write it in futureme.org if you want to choose to do that. But here are two examples of the letter to give you a kind of a little inspiration. You know that I do all my exercises to see if they work. So I'm my own student. So I found it easier to write this letter to my kids, to Awa and Alev, and just imagining where I am in 2030 and looking back to this time. So I won't read the whole thing, but it's acknowledging what was difficult about it, at the same time being grateful for what it was and what this time of crisis taught us, and how we were able to grow from this moment forward. And so the next example is from Annette. So Annette, thank you so much for sharing your letter with us. And it uses a template that we've created. And we'll put up the template for everyone, an empty template for everyone to see it. And so the next slide is the template where you can date it today's date, but 2030. You can write it to yourself or to a loved one or to your pet, whomever inspires you. And we used actually the template that we're going to use with, we're doing the Design the Leadership You Love workshop at Wild Conference. So that's a template that we have, but the content of it is the same. So if you'd like, take a picture of this. And if you'd like us to go back to the other letters, just put it into the chat box. And if you have a question, please put it into the chat box. Let's take a couple minutes for everyone to imagine 2030 and write a letter from 2030, your future self to your current self. You could do it again, completely free flow. Don't follow the template, or you can use the template or something in between. And I'll watch the chat to see if you have any questions. And I love the objects that you put into the into the chat box. Thank you. Viv, it's great to see you. So glad you could come.
So good to see you too.
Nice. Hi, Maru. And so is Joanne or Joan? But welcome, joining us from Minneapolis. Jennifer, good to see you. Verda, good to see you. Some of you have accompanied me from the first tee on, so I really, really appreciate that. And Phil, hi Phil. Betsy, nice. Ali, Helen, hi Helen. And Yeshim is back. Nice. Yeshim is calling from London, way past her bedtime. Barb, hi Barb. And Red, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Emilia, good to see you. Gabriella, do I owe you something? An email?
We were going to make an appointment to chat about you doing a little video for our creative perspectives.
Yes.
But I can email you later.
Okay. Good to catch up here. And Susan, Laurence, nice. Hello, my buddies. Wanda, hello. Let's see. You the board, Deborah? Come on, what's that? I love it. You did a new name, and Megan is here. I love it. Very cool. Okay, how's everyone doing with, and I can see, oh, Berk is here, Leah, Jen, Yong, Marie. We have a great crowd. All right, did everybody write their letters? Do you need more time? You need more time, okay. So just. Aw. Let's see, there's a question. Let's see, Gül. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. Yes, hi Ayşe. The question
Hi.
is, I plan to ... under that my action in the future. This part is written 2030, meaning that from 2030 to 2000 whatever 40, something like this.
Yes, something like that. Good question though.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe that should be I plan to.
I plan to from 2030.
Wait, I thought it was reverse. I thought you were writing a letter during 2030, reflecting back on what had happened over the last 10 years. Since
That's exactly what we're doing, Cheryl.
Okay, all right.
So
it should be this where my must-haves, and this is what I avoided, and this is what I have been doing.
that's exactly as that should be. So we'll update this copy with that.
Okay.
See, I did it free flow, so I didn't really pay attention to. I am breaking my own rules, so that's great feedback. Thank you. Which means Meltem is listening and Meltem is going to do the update. Cool. So I want to make sure that there's enough time for us to share. Any volunteers? Has anybody finished their letter and would like to read it to us so that we can inspire each other?
I can read mine.
Great. Meltem, do you want to go to the gallery view? And Barb, thank you.
It's a beginning, but
perfect.
I was grateful for my ingenuity, my industrious nature, and the smart way I made effective use of the time stuck at home. I learned to appreciate my gifts and my personality. I enjoyed every flower, every huff and puff of my morning Potrero Hill climbs. I realized how important my new friends have become to my life, and I thought about the changes I knew would come afterward, but was happy that I didn't fret over them nor fear the future. Rather than think about negatives and struggles, I calmly reflected that the future would be different and I would be peaceful in it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Well done in a short amount of time. Nothing like that, right? You only have 5 minutes and you produce. I love it. Okay, could we have another volunteer, please? See, the difference is when we do a workshop, I plant my plants, right? Like a magician. And then we can pretend like I can just call on you as a volunteer and you'll be like, oh, yes, okay. But here I can't do that. So please volunteer.
I can read mine.
Beautiful. Who's that? Verda. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. So dear me, here in 2030, I live so much more simply. And I have many less things, but I feel so much more connected with my family and community and surroundings. It feels something like when we sheltered in place, when we were forced to slow down, when we were friendlier to each other, and we cooked at home together. Let's see, today, there are so many things that I took for granted back then that we can't do anymore, like barbecue in our backyards, or eat out every night, or travel more than once a year. But in many ways, I feel much more fulfilled because I appreciate the things that I have more now. And those include connection to family and more time to do the things that I love to do. I know where things come from now. We have new traditions that we built on old ones. We have a closer knit community because we don't travel as much. We grow our own food, and then it kind of went on and on and on. I mean, that's where I stopped.
Wow, Merda, it's like a futuristic scenario that's hopeful and yet different.
Yeah, I feel like if we're gonna survive and have a better future, things are gonna be a lot different. But I think kind of like appreciating what the things that we can appreciate with the shelter in place now. I think that's what we need to look forward to.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. And my dear volunteers and everybody else, I would so welcome your letters if you'd like to share them with me. That would be a huge gift. So could we have another volunteer? These are so beautiful. Jennifer, are you raising your hand or not? No, okay, who wants to go? Alex, you want to go?
Anytime.
Thank you. You told me you have my back, so now I can
I have your back.
Put you on the spot. Yeah, spot. Thank you.
I'm writing to my daughter. Dear Stephanie, I'm writing these words in the time of the plague with great optimism that we will wake up and make the world a better place. What I discovered is that I enjoy all the wonderful solitude and time I have been gifted. One of my important discoveries is that I enjoy our home and do not miss Manhattan and its crowds at all. I want to keep this peace and quiet near me and within me all the time. I'm learning that I miss a simpler life and will now seriously move closer to you so I can see you often and enjoy your farm, your horses, and your company. These are my must-haves: a desk with morning sun, some land around my home, and plenty of hiking trails. I will avoid congestion, crowds, and pollution. Of course, I will continue to travel and learn from other cultures. That's it so far.
That's a beautiful beginning. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
So, quick question to Alex, to you, and to everyone. Do you think it's easier to write from here to the future or from the future back as we're playing with this idea?
From here to the future.
From here to the future.
I think from here to the future.
Okay.
I like going from the future back.
Yeah, I agree with Eileen.
Okay, so then that's great.
I like
what we'll
both.
do is we'll do an
I
option.
like both. It's two different viewpoints.
Yeah, we'll give the option, and you can choose to do one in the moment, and then the other could be something that you do while you're having coffee or a glass of wine. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. And I can see I am being disciplined by Meltem into moving on. Okay, fair. So thank you so much for everybody who has volunteered and But let's now take a moment to think some insights and opportunities that emerge as we did our letters, and take a moment to put them in the chat screen. This way we can all share, and I'll read some of the answers and then learn from each other. So what was your biggest insight as you wrote a letter from here to the future or from the future back?
Hi, I'm Joan up on the top. Even though you can't see me, I don't know why. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Who is this?
This is Joan. I'm up on the top. I don't know why I can't get into the chat room, but you can hear me and I can see you.
Okay, that's great. So, Joan, welcome. Sorry that we can't see you.
Pardon me?
And that sorry that we can't see you.
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
But if you see us, that is great.
I haven't heard anybody, and I take a lot of classes, complain about the lockdown or staying home. I think we've all really enjoyed the time, but I'm alone. So I've enjoyed most of the time by myself. Just doing different things. I've accomplished nothing in the apartment, but I'm not unhappy with this lockdown. And when it's over, I only work a couple of days a week. So I only go to doctors and see friends. I'm saving money. I'm not going out with the girls every other night. So this has not been a big problem. So,
great. Joan, thank you so much. So you mentioned you couldn't write into the chat box, but thank you so much for sharing that. And when we can all look at the chat box and we'll share the chat box with this group. But some of the things that are emerging are just like Joan said, that we're not, I think we're accepting the situation that we're in, that we're in our cocoons, and turning that constraint to an opportunity. And starting from Verda's note here, really thinking about what's important to us. And we talked about this in our reconstruction exercise as well. What are things we want to keep, and what are things we want to shed or leave out or avoid, and the things that we want to change. So she's talking about what she can shed. The importance of family, following your intuition more. Again, there are multiple times spent with family or children. I love this. An extrovert can really enjoy being alone. Very cool. Wittis and Associates, please put your name because I don't know who you are. Acknowledging that quiet feels good. And Anne is saying, getting really clear on lessons I've learned while locked down and the habits I want to carry forward. I was thinking the same thing myself, that I want to keep a notebook of things that I want to keep, of the things that I want to do when I come out. And Verda's future, where you could only travel once a year, made me think, where would I travel if I were to travel once? And then Jenny, our guest, hi Jenny, appreciation and moving calmly through life with gratitude. I think you're doing a beautiful job of that. And then Alex, you were talking about moving to the countryside. I want to move to the countryside. I this whole sheltering in place has showed a different face of New York to me that I'm not really enjoying. And that, again, Alex, you don't miss your Manhattan restaurant scene and commuting. Agreed. I don't miss airports, I have to tell you. And
I don't miss riding the subway.
You don't miss riding the subway. Did you see in the news, it said New York subways being cleaned for the first time? I was like, what? At the same time, I was like, I can totally believe that. Okay, yeah. I want, it's 5:30 and we have a beautiful guest. So again, we will share, this is Meltem actually, who shares the chat with us. So Meltem, you will share the whole chat with this group because that's part of the partnership. If you attend, you get to see the whole chat box. But now let's go back to our slides. And Jenny, I'm so happy that you're here. And I think of you every day, a couple times, because so many people talk about the pivot, the pivot, the pivot. And they pivot, we're gonna pivot this, we're gonna pivot there, we're gonna pivot like that. And I'm like, do they realize where the pivot comes from? It comes from Jenny Blake and her pivot method. So you really popularized this idea that we can pivot, and we're so lucky to have you here. Also, Jenny, mention to everyone, maybe you'll do that with your podcast, your daily podcast. So with that, please take the mic.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aisha. That's the coolest picture. You got to send me that one. It's the coolest illustration.
I will send you that one.
A pivot I've ever seen. And I want to also say thank you to everybody who's here for this virtual tea. I'm very honored to be the guest today. And I know Aisha mentioned that I've been doing a daily podcast since the pandemic started. The first one's called Pivoting Around a Pandemic. And the name of the show is the Pivot with Jenny Blake. And I did one episode on screen fatigue. So I know that the days are long. And I also did an episode on digital introverts, that sometimes for some of us, just being on video all day is stretching outside of our comfort zone. Aisha, you give me too much credit. Pivot is definitely, I will say that I learned about the word in the Lean Startup, and I had this question: how can people be as agile as startups? So I started working on the book and the podcast in 2014. It came out in 2016, and there's no way that any of us could have predicted what 2020 would bring.
Jenny, you want to wave your book? Otherwise, I'm going to give my book.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Have it handy for just that occasion. Here's the book. And
so everyone, Jenny is being humble when she says I'm giving her too much credit. I mean, she wrote the book. Come on.
Now we need a new cover. Although I wouldn't want my face on the cover, but you're going to design my next cover. I think that will be the best next step. The truth is that we all got pivoted by this pandemic globally. We're in a global pause, a collective pivot, and certainly all of our lives. Some of you have been impacted significantly. Some feel life is pretty much business as usual, but just seeing what's happening around the world in the economy, in sheltering at home, it's shocking. And we're all being asked to stretch. And in a way, I also think that the intentions that each of us set for 2020, this new decade, this powerful time, what do we want to create this year, 2020 vision, it has such a ring to it. I believe that those intentions still stand, but the universe has just shifted on its axis and is asking us to approach those same intentions almost with a 180-degree turn. Just like, let's shake up the global snow globe and see where all the snow lands. I've been asking a lot of people in my community and on the podcast, what are you secretly relieved not to be doing anymore? And that's what the conversation we were just having. Some of you saying, I'm relieved not to be traveling all the time or on subways. And this is a really powerful time to understand not just what we're being asked to let go of, but also what do we want to create? And I know, Aisha, that's a huge part of your work, is designing a life you love and working our way creatively into what's next. So I have just a few slides that I can share. Let me just get my screen ready. Hang on one second. Bear with me now. I had it already. Now my screen has shifted. Okay, here we go. I'm going to walk you through just one stage of the pivot method. It's a 4-stage framework. Can you just give a thumbs up if you can see the slides? Okay, perfect. The stage that I'm most excited about is pilot. So in the pivot method, it really boils down, this is a cycle, not a one and done linear process. The plant stage is about what's working and what does success look like. So I love that we started here with a vision for writing to ourselves from the year 2030. The scan stage is about saying, based on your strengths and what's already working and your vision for what success looks like, your values, your interests, how you want to grow, what's out there? People, skills, projects. Pilot is about asking, what can I try? And the big secret to pivot, the thing that I've realized now, almost 4 years since the book came out, is that the entire pivot method, the entire process of mapping what's next comes down to, what can I try? That's it. Nobody has the answers. And the pandemic is showing us that even if we thought we had answers about what's next previously, we're being asked to rewrite that. And so a lot of times people feel self-conscious when they're planning what's next because they think, well, I don't know which of these 3 options is the best path for me, or which of these projects should I tackle? And the truth is you can't know upfront. So the most fun stage is pilot. Think about racehorses at the Kentucky Derby. You can't know which one's going to win. And insert metaphor of your choice, but imagine your job is just to line up your pilots or small experiments, put them at the starting gate, lift the gates and say, go. And your pilots will start to show you which ones take on a momentum of their own. An example I share in the book is Jerry Seinfeld. He pivoted from his show Seinfeld, which he often joked was a show about nothing, to his 3 passions: comedians, in cars, getting coffee. And he said in an interview with President Obama in this web TV series, he said, there's nothing more nothing than this, the format of his new show. And now after he piloted it as a web series, it got picked up by Netflix. But all he's doing is he chose 3 things that he enjoys: comedians, cars, and coffee. And he geeks out over them and has these very casual conversations. And it became a big sensation. He was just profiled recently in the New York Times talking about post-show business, how he's responding to the pandemic, and how he is ready to drop the game of it all and just focus on the bit, the audience, and the moment. Think about that. So he's saying, you know what? I don't need to strive anymore. I don't want to play the game, the Hollywood game. I just want to focus on the bit, this little small joke, or what am I noticing? That's what I think of as a bit, especially Seinfeld. These little nuanced things that he picks up about everyday life. The bit, the audience, and the moment. So the small little nugget, the audience, who do you feel most passionate about serving? That can be your own family, it could be your community, your friends, and the moment, being present with what's here now. When you think about a pilot, a small experiment, or a project, or any one next step, think about where it falls in this, I call it the riskometer. Stagnation zone is you're bored. Maybe sheltering at home, you're bored, you're ready for something new. It's Groundhog Day, we don't even know what day it is. I love what Aisha is piloting here with the virtual tea. I had a friend, it's his 40th birthday today, and he said, I'm gonna be on Zoom for 12 hours straight. Pop in and say hello. And he had over 100 people pop in throughout the day. Comfort zone is you feel good. I don't think anyone really, at least for the first month or 2 of this coronavirus craziness, we all got catapulted out of our comfort zone, whether that was the case with your work or not, just in general in life. Stretch zone is the optimal range for change, where any next step or project feels edgy but exciting, and you've got adrenaline pumping. If you try any one next move that's too big, it tends to send you into your panic zone, where more than excitement, you feel paralyzed, confused, stuck, compare and despair. analysis paralysis. It's not a state where you're excited and taking action. So when you find yourself in that state of kind of paralysis or frozen or overcome by anxiety and uncertainty and insecurity, which are all normal, by the way, the key is to say, how can I make this even smaller? How can I create an even tinier next step? A good pilot, and this kind of just shows your strengths, generally where you want to end up, like plotting on Google Maps, you are here, you want to end up here. A good pilot will help you understand 3 E's. Do you enjoy this area? Can you become an expert at it? And is there room to expand? So when I first started my podcast, I thought it would be this little side project that went with the book. I'm going to be interviewing experts anyway. I might as well hit record. And I recorded very scrappily right onto my iPhone. I used to say, welcome to the Pivot Podcast. I have no fancy intro and outro music, but I'm excited to welcome today's guest. But very quickly, and by the time the book came out 1.5 years later, I realized this was my favorite thing that I do. Same thing with when the pandemic hit. I went from a weekly podcast to daily to challenge myself because I enjoy it. So then, is this an area that you're excited to become an expert in, to grow your skills, to expand both personally, and then is there room in the market? So if you feel that your projects are, you're not enjoying it, then that would be a good experiment, a successful pilot to show you these 3 E's. It can be a little confusing, but I do want you to try. So I love all of Aisha's reflection exercises. Try to think about what are some experiments that you could run in this next month. Here we find ourselves in May. There's this emerging new normal, even though we know that it has nothing to do with what was. We're all entering an entirely new place, and yet we're still in a liminal state. So do some brainstorming. What are some small experiments you could run? This could be around your morning rituals, your evening wind down routines. It could be experiments in the kitchen, learning a language, taking an intro class, launching your own weekly Zoom with friends, family, or your community. So try to go broad. Don't censor yourself. Go for quantity, not quality. See if you can get 10 pilots or small experiments down for the month ahead.
I love that. Jenny, thank you so much.
Sure. And then I'll just put the second
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh,
if
sorry.
You want to keep brainstorming, and then we might have to keep moving. But then I also like to think about the next 6 months. None of us can predict the future. We don't know how things are going to unfold. But what might be some bigger projects that would be energizing to you, even in your stretch zone, to try to tackle? And even if you look at what you wrote from your 2040 self, what is like one pilot that could help you start to dip your toe in the water of where you see yourself 10 years from now? So those are the reflection questions. Aisha, I'll let you determine how much time, if we want to give any. Or you can
Jenny, would you like
in the
to?
chat.
No, I thought that would be great if we want to take a couple minutes and everybody, how about they put their first couple of ideas for their experiment into the chat box.
And I love doing
small
that.
or big, right?
Yes, and if you're willing to share a few ideas, we will all get ideas from what you include in the chat. So I love when people share pilots or even one small next step on something without having the answers. Again, you do not need to know yet which of these is going to work, but then we'll all get ideas from the collective brainstorming of the group.
Great. So let's take a minute. So Jenny, as everyone is putting things into the experiment box, may I share my experiment live?
Please, I would love that.
One thing that I realized is that when we repeat the things that we do again and again, time feels like it's really short. And I was starting to notice in myself and others where we say we don't know where the week went, you know, now that we're sheltering in place. And it made me think, in neuroscience, a first experience is what feels like your brain is registering it for the first time, and that feels really long. And if you do it again and again, the time feels very short. And so one of the things you can do to expand the sense of time is to do new things, actually. So if you're walking somewhere, take a different route, and that would feel longer. And so with that, I thought, if I do a new thing every day, then my days will start to differentiate themselves and time will start to expand. So I did so those of you who know me know that I love to do karate, and I haven't done it in a long while. So I did an online kata, which is the karate kind of dance. And then my next thing is I want to learn to play a piece in the a piano. So that, anyways, those are the experiments that I want to run.
I love that. And I love giving yourself, it's not like, I'm going to do karate every day now. It's like once a week, something that you can wrap your mind around and actually build some momentum around.
Yeah, and that's what you can't fail.
Yeah, exactly. And then even if you did, you might realize, oh, I'm not enjoying this anymore, or there's not more room in my schedule. But I love what you said too about time expanding when we do new things. So one last resource to share with all of you. Aisha has the best. I mean, I just love your book so much, and I love your work. Related to the exercise we did today, one of my favorite templates is at pivotmethod.com/idealday. It will help you map. It's a Mad Lib. So you just like the exercise we did today, you can fill in the blanks. And I wonder what that would look like. You know, I often coached people to do this when times were really good. Now times are sort of crazy and unpredictable. But so you could do it twice. You could do it for 10 years from now, 1 year from now, or you could even do it for given the circumstances that we're in and that you in particular might be in, because everyone's in such a different state around all this. So just wanted to offer that in case it's helpful. And there's a ton of free templates if you just go to pivotmethod.com/toolkit. I also saw someone mention time and freeing up time blocking. There's a free mini course if you go to pivotmethod.com/foundertime. So happy to take any questions. I know this was very brief, and Aisha, you'll let me know if we have time for any questions, but if you do have any, I'm happy to.
We have time for maybe one question.
Okay, great.
I have a question.
Wonderful.
Wanda, go for it.
Okay. So I'm a New York City tour guide, and I now decided to go on Instagram Live, but I'm wondering, how is it that you build an audience? How do you connect with someone digitally when you're used to connecting in person? It's different.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it can be quite overwhelming. I know even for me, sometimes it feels like, how do I be heard? There's so much going on. There's so much out there. I think of it like making friends. So, and you might even get the most traction by starting with your friends and the people you already know, and start there. I also believe that if you create interesting, good content, for me, my measure of whether a podcast is good is if somebody listens and tells a friend, or even the book. They love it so much that they then want to tell someone else. And in terms of how to reach your people, maybe do some visualization on that front as well, some visioning of who's your ideal community member that you could attract by doing this work. And the more time you can spend picturing who are you really trying to reach? Like the world at large is a big group. So maybe there's a really small segment, like people who have just moved to New York and are affected by the coronavirus, or something that you can start small so that you can make a really big impact on that group. And then they will start to become some of your best and first advocates.
I love that, but that sounds like, Wanda, that's going to be your experiment.
Yes. I love it. And I love how you're
Wanda,
pivoting.
if you have a, sorry, I was just going to say, sorry, Jenny, I didn't mean to cut you off,
okay.
but Wanda, if you have your Instagram, you can put it in the link in the chat box. And then this whole group can follow you. That's like an immediate 60% increase in your Instagram following.
Yes. I also like to ask, if let's say you start with these 60, I like to ask, what would be most helpful or interesting? Or I'm in New York and I'm doing Instagram lives of XYZ content. You know, what do you want to see? What would be compelling for you? And just ask people so that you are also aligning and listening and then creating what your current audience is most looking for.
Great. Jenny, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
it's such an honor to be here.
You're simply amazing. And everyone,
you
Jenny and I have been talking about collaborating for a long time. This is our first collaboration. So one of the things that I've mentioned in when we were talking about the metaphor for the crises, that we're in our cocoons right now, and then when we come out, we're going to come out as butterflies, and that for me, my wings are going to be my friends who are my collaborators. So Jenny is part of my new wing set, and so thank you, Jenny. And everyone, I put Jenny's website in the chat, Amazing Jenny Blake, and that's pivotmethod.com. So if you have any questions or suggestions for me or for our virtual team, I would so welcome it. And my whole team who's here, Meltem, who's been running the show and co-hosting, and Seda Eves and Leah Kaplan, who are here. And you're all here, part of my core team. So thank you so much.